Welcome, Jann, to Kevjet the podcast.
Hi, Kevin. I love your
Hello.
set.
Thank you.
Looks
To work.
gorge. I am so happy to be here on the Kevjet podcast. It's a long time coming, and I'm so grateful to be a guest. And I know these are heavy days. Maybe we should unravel that a little bit and see what's on our minds. But hang in there, everybody. We're going to talk about music and books and Alzheimer's and just fun things. And how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Really good. I'm, the world is getting me down, but I'm trying to find joy and trying to find gratitude where I can and find perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the stuff's been going on thousands of years, and human nature does not really change much. It doesn't deviate from its path.
Definitely not.
Just,
I think I'm in a little bit of a funk this week, and I don't even know why. It's just something I just can't shake off.
oh, we would be crazy to think that we don't absorb a very massive collaborative feeling that is projected out into the universe. You're dealing with angst and pain and terror on such a magnitude. Not only Ukraine, Somalia, Eritrea, parts of Africa, all over the world, there's a lot of discontent. But, when the news catches the bigger things, the Middle East seems to topple everything. Ukraine is old news now, as you can see by how these news cycles go. And you get lambasted for saying anything, so people feel choked off in expressing grief because their social media platforms are inundated with such hatred from whatever side. Well, you don't know what they've done to us, and you don't know what they did to that. And so people feel choked off from even going on. They're removing comments or taking stuff down. Yeah, it's a complicated issue. But you know what's not complicated? You don't fucking kill people. You don't kidnap people. You don't kill children. You don't kidnap elderly people. You don't gang rape people. You don't do it. And it's not like our God's bigger than their God. It's not they started it. It's not any of that, because that is so convoluted. Grief is grief. And to have an outpouring of the international community to say, and it's inherently wrong. And anyone with half a brain recognizes that Hamas does not in any way, shape, or form represent the Palestinian people. It's just disgusting what Hamas has done. Indeed, if they're attaching themselves to a Palestinian heritage, what they have just done to their own people.
Mm-hmm.
And surely to God, no pun intended, somebody thought that through when they organized those young men in their late teens, 20s, 30s, arming them and sending them on a rampage, unannounced. It'd be like you and I at the C&E, you and I at Glastonbury. So I read a comment, if that had happened on US soil, the music festival, it would have been the largest mass shooting in human history, like in the United States. Anyway, it's it is. Everyone I've spoken to, it's just this thing. And I think because of the way we get our news now, because we hold it in our hands, we hold 24-hour news cycle here. It's inescapable. We don't get to, it's when we go to sleep, it's when we wake up. It's on everything. And I think 20 years ago, when there was, problems overseas or wherever, we could kind of get part of the story, but not really understand it. It was so far away from home. It didn't affect us, doesn't affect what we're doing. I think at the end of the day, the only thing people really worried about was, are oil prices going to deviate? You know,
It's
is that
true.
going to affect how the oil gets here? Like, it was such a kind of, nobody gave a shit what happened there. But now we live in such a different world where people are living all over the world. There's expats everywhere. They have families. And
We're
I mean,
consumed by it. Like
yeah. And
just here in London, my phone will go off with the BBC alerts.
yeah,
And you're just constantly like, oh shit, what's happening now? It's always in your hand, like you said.
yeah. I think you can absorb it and take it on. And then it's literally, letting it go. It's like trying to cup a butterfly and walk around the house with it. You can't really do anything else. You can't pick up a teapot or grab a book to read or drive your car or make your kids lunch because you're cupping a butterfly. It's something so tender and something so delicate, and you don't want to hurt it. So your hands are like this all day. And then you realize, no, I want to protect this and I want to honor this feeling, but I have to do things in my life. You have to pursue joy and happiness always, because this is an endless part of humanity. Our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren will never, ever see peaceful times. I don't believe it. I don't believe people are capable of it. I just don't. As long as there's people, as long as political people are terrible, shitty people that endanger their population on a daily basis and are absolutely responsible for leading their people into hell. They somehow find their way there, don't they? They find their way into power.
Always.
But I mean, we've seen 5, 6, 7,000 years of recorded history,
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Egyptian hieroglyphs or Alexander the Great or William the Conqueror, all the things that, all the very famous people that have stood the test of time historically have usually been really fucking terrible people that have killed everyone, and their names seem to live on and echo through the corridors of time and space. And the good guys are marking on the ceiling of a wall going, I'm the guy that laid this brick in this tomb. My name's Fred. See ya. That's it.
So true.
But it's like, it's so impossible. I mean, thank God there's art that sort of lives on, artifacts, things people made. I make a point, like this morning I woke up and I put on some classical music, and I'm babysitting my friend's dog, and I've got my little dog, and I'm like, I'm happy. I was looking at the birds, and the deer showed up today, and I'm looking out into the trees, and I think I'm so acutely aware of the gratitude that is just, it's just grown exponentially the last few days, just because I realize that I am a very fortunate person. I'm a privileged person. I just am. Whatever hardships I had growing up, drunk dad, whatever, it's so insignificant to where I am now and what's available to me.
Definitely. This morning, I walked to the train. It was my one day of the week where I go into the center, and the sunrise came up just over the tracks. So it just glistened on the tracks. And there was like that little bit of fog, and it was just absolutely stunning. And I stopped for a second because I just thought, oh, I needed this. This is what I needed to start my day. So it's the little things.
Yeah. And maybe it's the little things that will change us. Maybe it's not the big things at all. At least I know on this world, I do have some hope because of the feeling that you and I have. And I don't know anyone that lives there. I don't have a dog in the hunt, really. I don't have family there. I don't even have a friend that lives there or that goes to university there. I don't know anyone there. But empathy is what I was going to get to, is that there's a real sense of, whether you're in northern China or somewhere in Thailand on a beach or in Australia, there is a profound amount of horrified, empathic people. And that energy is what we feel, like you feel it on the back of your neck and you feel it in your heart. It's a palpable. I don't know anything about the laws of physics or how human energy works or how it's, if trees can talk to each other 400 miles away and warn each other of diseases that are coming and warn each other about this fucking bug is coming in the next year or so, you need to start making this thing to protect yourselves. Then it would be stupid to think that the energy, the combined energy of everyone in every corner of this world that is feeling this, it doesn't do something. I wish it was a color. I wish it was like purple fuzz that we could see winding through the air and going through Kevin Cottrell and slamming through Jann Arden in Canada and then buzzing over to Vancouver Island and just going through all of us, that we are connected.
The air is very heavy right now. And no matter who you speak to, they all say, I don't know what it is, but I'm in this funk.
Yeah. Don't you think it's part of that energy grid?
Oh, it has to be.
We're plugged into it. I don't know. You think of these guys that go to Alaska to be off the grid. Are you ever really off the grid? If your feet are on the planet, you're on the grid, and they're going to find you. The energy is going to find you. You stand under the same sun and the same moon as anybody else. Same stars, same oxygen. You can go try and get off the grid till you're blue in the face, but you're part of this.
It's like playing hide and seek.
And I want to just back up and say, if you want to go do that, bravo. I think it's a really cool thing to do. And I think you're a pretty goddamn strong person to go and build a life for yourself. It's not for me. I mean, I'm far enough out of the town. I'm half an hour away. That's about as off the grid as I ever want to get.
I'm the same.
I need people. I need people.
Me too. I need that energy. I can't stay in the house more than a day, and I need to be in central London, even if it's just for a walk through Covent Garden or Leicester Square, or I just need that little buzz.
How are you feeling? How's Kevin Cottrell heart health? And
I'm feeling okay. I'm enjoying life. That's all that matters.
It is. You have defied so many, dire situations. You, like, looking at your social media, I'm always like, I'm not amazed, because it doesn't surprise me. Your optimism. I mean, I've known you for a long time. We met kind of through music, and you're good friends with my road manager, Chris. And, we've done the odd trip together. I every once in a while have these pictures come up. 9 years ago today, I'm like, what the fuck was I doing with Kevin? We're standing God knows where by a statue. And
one of my favorite memories is actually wandering through the streets in Paris in the pouring rain.
Oh, gosh, we had no clue where we were going. Didn't we know how to work GPS? And the channel.
Yeah.
And in that restaurant drinking wine. I was so hungover the next day, and I had to speak at some young women's seminar or something. But God.
I know. It's great memories. I'm glad we've done it. So.
Oh, for sure. Well, people are resilient. Human beings are resilient. I don't know how we keep going some days, but just when you think you're tapped out of every ounce of strength that you have, that your last nerve has been fried out of your body, and that not one more thing can go wrong and not one more shitty thing can happen to you. It does. And your eyes blink and you're like, gee, I'm still going. I didn't collapse under this weight. You seem to come out of it like grieving the loss of parents or loved ones or partners or children, or you think, I'm not going to make it. And the days go by and you're like, I'm still here. I'm still going. And I'm still finding purpose. Human beings are so amazing and so hideous in the same damn breath.
It's so true. It's so true.
Their potential is limitless, and their ability to be vile is also limitless. So we are a quandary, Kevin.
We are. Oh my goodness. Wow, that started off pretty deep.
Well, it's okay because I think people need it. And I think, for people that feel choked off on having an opinion about the Middle East, a lot of people put something up on social media and they're attacked no matter what. And it's not about taking sides. It's just inherently wrong to rape and kill people. Even out of vengeance, it's inherently wrong to rape and kill people.
Mm-hmm.
So that needs to be the basis of any conversation.
It's really funny that
But
it's funny you say that because the headline has actually sort of moved tonight in London from everything that's happening in the Middle East, which has been 24/7, to a presenter from this morning has quit. And that's the headline. And it's such a yin and yang and makes no sense to me, but that's what's taking over the news tonight at 6 o'clock. That's the headline.
The UK media is a fucking shit show.
You couldn't make
the
any of this
stuff
up.
they report on, the way they go after people, the things that are seemingly important. I mean, you guys are in as much political shit as we are, the United States is. We're feeling it in Canada. It's very divisive. You've got a guy leading your country that has decided that climate change just isn't a problem that he's willing to deal with at the moment. And sorry, but we just can't meet those projections, and so we're just not going to do it. And it's just foolhardy. And this is what happens when you have a person that is more intent on keeping power and catering to billionaires and people that need him to say that in order to keep the machinery going, whether it's in software, fossil fuels, cheap energy, cheap meat, cheap food.
Mm-hmm.
All those things kill the planet. And I just, when that whole thing happened, the G7 and the G20 summits, I was just like, fuck, buddy. Really? You landed in this job, and you can see he's standing there going, I shouldn't be here. Like, what am I doing here? And but one thing, it's a very cutthroat political system in the UK, so I don't think he'll last very long.
His new thing was spitting transphobia messages in his.
Great.
Yeah, and that was done politically in a conference which was held a couple days ago.
Well, is he considered a far right political person?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if my mother was here, she would say, well, it was very terrible in 1945, and nobody ever thought it would be good again, or no one ever thought you'd have fun again or feel easy again. And actually, after the Second World War, there was, quite a few decades of growth and progress, and people seem to be kind of jarred from what was that, and we don't want to do that again. And then generations die out, right? People always wonder, well, why don't those sentiments hold true? Well, people die, and the people that were gravely affected by that, it's their kids and their grandkids, and the memory gets more distant. And then kids that were born in 2010, they're not really even aware of the Twin Towers coming down. So it's almost like a news cycle. That's what human beings are like. They're a news cycle. So as these new people come into the planet, they don't deal with any of that. And so they just fall into these old shitty habits again.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, and I know I do want to talk about music, and I do want to talk about art. The one thing that always, I think, unites people and keeps bringing them back into what's important and what makes them feel good is music, and is art galleries and sculpting and dance and theater and musicals. And
it's so important.
Oh, it's so important to human life. I picture the world without it. I can't think of two more contrasting things colliding than that music festival in that little beautiful sliver of Israel near the Gaza border, and men flying in there intent on doing grievous bodily harm. There was nothing else in their brains. And it was just a frenzy. I mean, that's been proven when you get groups of people together. But yeah, just the contrast of such beauty and such goodness.
And just being free.
Yeah, being free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Well, I'm the most optimistic person in the world. And there's very few things that can shatter my optimism. And this is nothing new, I don't think. The Bible was a very violent, documented piece of history. Anyone that spent any time reading religious prose, I shouldn't call it prose, antiquated stuff, so violent. It's literally people saying, well, God told us to come in here and wipe out everyone in this entire village and take the land. I'm like, okay, that's a really nice biblical message. Like, the Bible is really violent. It's a violent, horrible documentation of human history, of the shitty things people do in the name of God.
Still to this day.
I just can't believe people hold that book up in the air, expunging its virtues. I just don't get it. And don't get me wrong, I believe ultimately in something really wonderful and a supreme intelligence, and whether that's physics or science or consciousness or angels. Like, I believe in a lot of good things, but I don't believe in a guy sitting on a throne doling out, punishment and reward.
No.
I mean, I don't even know if the Middle East is it religious? I used to be. I don't think they even know.
Were your parents, did they raise you to be religious?
My dad was Mormon. So his mother came up in a covered wagon from Utah, and they had come from Europe at one point, Missouri. They had to go somewhere where A, they could get away with polygamy, and B, they could, structure this new religion, this offshoot of Christianity, without being persecuted and murdered, basically. But there's very violent beginnings to Mormonism. But yeah, when I was 12 or 13, my dad said, I resented having to go to church. I resented it. And you don't have to go. You just, if you don't want to go, we never went again.
Wow.
My older brother, I never, ever stepped into a church again. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for me. But I think it's important to note that people should be allowed to believe in what they want, if it doesn't hurt other people. If it doesn't hurt other people.
Exactly.
So, yeah, whatever blows your skirt up. My dear friend, 91-year-old friend, Marianne, goes to the United Church, and they have a lesbian pastor. And Marianne is, she's widowed. She's got 3 great kids. She's the most open-hearted, open-minded, altruistic, wonderful person, which reminds me, I need to call her today. And I get such a kick out of her. She loves Jesus, but she loves going to the casino. I mean, she's that perfect combination of respecting all the good things about community and about you believing in good things and praying for people to get well and praying for people to get out of hardship. Like that part of religion where, yeah, these people need some clothes and wouldn't mind, getting them some, that kind of church and community.
Sure.
But, she always makes me laugh. She has a little knitted square with little charms on it that the lesbian pastor blessed, that she rubs the casino machines with. Fuck, does that make me laugh? She always wins. So there you go.
Maybe we should go get something blessed from the pastor.
Yeah. But I am always so stuck on the profoundly crazy idea of there being 5, 6, 7, 8 gods up there, right? That everyone's that no, he's the guy. No, we got the guy. No, we got the guy.
Over here
I,
in the Indian culture, they have hundreds of gods. So it's really
they're onto something.
Yeah,
They probably have a god for every different thing, right?
they do. Yeah,
Well, don't the Catholics have saints for all the different stuff?
they
Lost
do.
dogs and lost jewelry and
Can't find your
lost
keys.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good farming, and it's always been such a point of control. I'm glad I'm free of that dogma, though. I'm glad as a 61-year-old woman that, and a person that makes their way through the world with the arts, which would have been unthinkable for me 100 years ago. I mean, yes, there's still a lot of disparity with what women make and what men make, but in particular, the arts, just being a person that has made her way really the last 40 years. I'm very aware of the people that came before me, the Mary Ann's and my mom and my poor Mormon grandmother that had absolutely no choice. She was with her mother and father and her many siblings coming up in a covered wagon and landing in Cardston, which is a little tiny town right on the Montana border in southern Alberta. And there's a Mormon temple there. There was nothing there. And they raised money, millions of dollars in those times in 1923.
Wow.
To build this massive marble, granite. It's probably not marble. Anyway, it's this beautiful white stone building that juts out of the ground like a massive, I want to say, tombstone. But yeah, she had no choice. So her ideology and everything she believed in was literally handed to her. This is yours. This is what you believe. And off you go. And then she handed it to her kids. And thank God, by the time it kind of got to me, it's like that whispering game at a party when you whisper a sentence and the kid next to you. And once it goes around to 10 people and gets back to you, you're like, it started off with the frog is on the lily pad. And by the time it gets back to you, it's like, kiss my lily white ass. Like, what? But yeah, so by the time my dad and him having kids, he was just like, nope, the buck stops here. It's not working. Whatever this system is, it's just not working.
What did your mom believe?
Well, she never joined the church, and her mother-in-law, my dad's mother, she was never all right with it. She thought my mom was so rebellious. And they let them get married in the gymnasium of the Mormon Stake Center. So they never were able to go in the temple. My dad neither, because he had left the church and he wasn't practicing. But to keep his mother happy, they married in the gymnasium of the Mormon Stake Center, which is like a church, And then they had all their pictures taken on the steps. I still drive by that stake center all the time in Calgary. And I always think of mom standing there with her flowers in her hand. And I think what we discovered after the fact as well, my brother, was born in 1959 in March. And my parents were married in 58 in August. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. I think she might have been pregnant. So, and just barely.
Yeah. Interesting. I one of my fond memories of your mom was having dinner at your house. And it's when Belle was just allowed in the house because she was starting to not be well. And your mom wanted to get a little dog. And I don't know if you remember this conversation, but she kept asking you for the if she could get a little dog, like Mitty, and you said no,
I
mom.
know.
You said no, mom. Maybe when Belle passes away, we'll think about getting a smaller dog. And she said, I don't understand why something always has to die in order to get something new. And that sentence has stayed in my mind since she said that.
Well, I just want to defend myself a bit because that sounds terrible. So for all you listeners out there, my mom was in she was held captive by Alzheimer's. So Kevin was here with his friend visiting. It was really nice to be able to, stop. You guys were you took time for me, which was so great. And anyway, yeah, we did. We had mom over and her old dog, which I think Belle was probably 10 at the time. She lived another year and a half after that.
She
But
did, yeah.
for, I already had like, full-time care for my mom. It was just before she'd gone into a nursing home. And I just thought, as much as I'd like to get my mom a dog, it's just not feasible because she wouldn't even have known how to feed it. The door would have been left open. That dog would have been gone. So just to all you folks listening, trust me, it broke my heart to try and make up some story as to why my mother couldn't have a dog. And further to that, she had a cat also. So she had Belle that she was feeding half a loaf of bread and milk. And I would go in there and try and grab this loaf of bread out of the dog's bowl. And mom would say, I have fed that dog the same diet its whole life. And what can you say? Like a half a loaf of bread with a glug of white jug of milk. Like I would just be mortified. And if I didn't catch her, I thought to myself, well, how many loaves of bread is this dog eating every week? So I had to intervene. And yeah, it's hard. But she had a cat. She had a cat that slept with her all the time. And once in a while, the cat got out, but at least it wasn't a little dog. Cats are a little more street smart than puppies.
Definitely.
There's a chance in hell that they can get up a tree and save themselves.
Agreed. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm so glad that you met mom. And it was just small world to be able to hop on a plane and be so far away and to have dinner at somebody's house in Canada.
Definitely.
When you live in London.
Yeah. Next day I was in LA.
I know.
Crazy.
It really
Crazy.
is.
Crazy world. If somebody said, how did your parents shape your career, or did they shape your career?
Oh, for sure. If my dad hadn't have been an alcoholic, I would never have gone into music. And it's a long way around making a statement like that. But because we lived in rural Alberta, which I still live, it's not like I could walk to the 7-Eleven or walk to a bowling alley or walk to the mall. We got on the bus to school. And when we got off the bus, your nearest friend is a quarter of a mile away on a farm. And, just because of his drinking, he was very unpredictable. So I went into the basement. And mom and dad had an old record player down there and all these records. And my mom had an old guitar. And I would spend so much time down there. I just loved it. I didn't even know how much I loved music until I just started listening to records. And I was just dazzled by things people wrote down. Like you have an epiphany at one point when you're going, a human being made up these songs. Someone had to sit and make this song up. They had to make the chords up. They had to add the words. They had to make the melody. You don't just hit a switch and the song comes out. It's someone with thoughtfulness and someone who has a story to tell. And so that was the catalyst to it. Now, I never thought I could go into music. I just didn't think someone from Canada, really from the country, someone that looked like me, freckles and short. And I was just like, but I can still love it. So it didn't deter me from learning the guitar and making up songs, but I did it I wasn't motivated by being a famous person. I was motivated by my absolute passion for music.
How old were you when you
so
wrote your first song?
11 and a half years old. It had to do with my family dying, which makes me laugh to this day, but I do remember it. It was, I think, dream of a Neverland. I remember it because I was hitting one string. I didn't even know any chords. So I was like hitting the E string on the bottom. Ding, 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 ding. And I did kind of a tonal, I was like a human bagpipe, working this, these notes around the one string. And then you're like, what can I push down to make an actual, and then what can I change? And then you just sort of get obsessed, which I was.
Did you record it?
No, I didn't have any way of recording it. We didn't have tape recorder or anything like that. I was probably 14 or 15 before I actually had anything on a cassette deck, or it never dawned on me to ask mom and dad, could I get a cassette deck with the little microphone for Christmas? That probably would have been way beyond their price point. But my mom was always singing around the house. She was very musical, and she loved music. My parents always had a radio on. I don't know what your life was like growing up, but where we were, my dad had a wood shop, and he always had it set to 1060, which was country radio, and it was on 24/7. Growing up, if we went by his shop, you could hear the radio even when there was no one in it. When my dad died, the radio was on, and it was just a constant. It never dawned on any of us to go out there and turn that radio off.
I love that.
So, and I was very reluctant to turn it off after he died.
It's a final moment, isn't it?
I went in there actually a couple of times and put it on the station because it was driving me fucking crazy. It was right on 1060, and it was the dial. It wasn't the digital one.
Right.
That radio's still out there, and I'm actually cleaning out my dad's shop. He's been dead for 8 years, and we're just finally getting around to cleaning out that shop. And so we've been listening to the radio, and I'm like, I am changing this station because I cannot listen to country music. And I like country music. Don't get me started, but we found some ridiculous station, and I didn't know who anybody was until Billie Eilish came on. And then I think they played something else that I knew, but I don't know anything anymore. Like I've actually turned into that 61-year-old person where I'm like, I don't know any other artists. I live in a vacuum. I just do my thing, and I listen to my old standbys. I'm still listening to ABBA and Karen Carpenter, for Christ's sakes. So I'm the wrong person to talk to about. So what are you listening to now? Same stuff as I was in the 70s. Rita Coolidge.
What did you think of ABBA when you came?
I loved it. I loved it.
It's such a surreal experience, isn't it?
It's so great. It's unbelievable. I cried a lot. I love that it was so loud. I love that Bjorn and Benny have just opted to set a decibel rate that is deafening. There is ushers going around handing out earplugs, but they're not going to adjust it for anybody. They're not adjusting it for the elderly. They're not adjusting it for young children. This is what it is. And the fact that it's very much artificial intelligence, and it's so clever. You really feel like you're seeing ABBA. But the live band, so all the vocals are, of course, pulled from tracks. I think Bjorn and Benny have meticulously gone through and pulled tracks, but the backup vocals, the band is a 9-piece live band that are over to the side. You don't even notice them till halfway through the show. You're like, there's a live band happening.
Freaky. I know.
It's freaky. So they're there, but you're so busy looking at the AI versions of ABBA at the top of their game. They're probably in their late 30s. And, they weren't young when they hit. They weren't these young kids. They were like 30-ish. They're in their late 70s now. Yep. But anyway, it's such a mind boggler when you notice, Jesus Christ, there's a fucking drummer over there. And then you're just trying to take in the ceiling moving and the, I don't know. It's something, I'm glad they've extended the run. I don't think they realized the success of it. I would love to see it as a permanent fixture.
I know, but it's just amazing.
But they say that the building is made to be taken down.
It is. It's like an IKEA brand building.
It's kind of put together by Lego.
It's crazy.
And, but yeah, the pudding station is right there. You hop off on Pudding Lane or whatever the hell
Pudding
that
Lane.
is. Pudding Lane. But yeah, it's it was a childhood dream to see them. And I think that's as close as I'll ever get. Their new record that they put out 2 years ago was fantastic. Voyage. And I just thought, man, these girls are singing great. It was really, really wonderful.
It's a lot of fun. Do you
I hate
think
to do it.
do you think your parents realized the success that you've had? Or do
Oh,
you
I
think
think they knew. I think they were sort of in the middle of it. I mean, my dad was able to retire when he was my age. I was making money and he was still pouring concrete and, working so hard and long hours and doing estimates. And I just said, you can quit, Dad. And I just paid them to be at home
yeah.
and do stuff. So I think that was really one of the best things that happened in my life, was to be able to do that.
Do you think the other best thing, it's kind of an oxymoron, but do you think the other best thing was to look after them at the end of their life?
Yeah, without a doubt. I blew through all their savings, because I knew, they didn't have a lot. I think they had $400,000. To my dad, it might as well have been 10 million.
Of course.
But their house was paid for. They built a little ranch house on my property, and you saw it when you were here.
Yeah, of course.
And so that was paid for, and I paid all the property taxes and things like that. That was an absolute blessing and an absolute gift to be able to look after them. And it was because of my dad's hard work and the amount of money he'd saved that I was able to keep Mom at home with caregivers, because she had no short-term memory. Like, she couldn't work a teapot, or it's so hideous. And then I just sort of started spending my own money when that ran out. And then she went into a care home, but she was only there 10 months. I feel like she went, you know what? I've had enough. And I feel like I'm dragging my kids down. My mom was so sensible. When she made up her mind to go, she stopped eating and she stopped drinking.
It was very quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, she just went. That was that. But I have a good life. Even when she was bonkers, she knew who I was. I said, you know who I am? Well, you're Jann Arden and you're my mom. And I said, well, that is so crazy because you're my mom. No. I said, I'm your mom and you're my mom. She goes, I can't believe it. And we would just laugh. Like, why not? Why not? So many people are so determined to go, I'm not your mom, I'm your daughter. Oh, fuck's sake, stop it.
I know.
Be who they think you are.
Just go with it.
Well, Dad and I used to drive to Frankfurt. Like, me at the beginning, I would have been like, Mom, it's an ocean. You can't drive to Frankfurt. And then I would just go, that's a long drive. It was a long drive. And I was so much happier.
Did you find it difficult when people asked you about them
No.
when you were living through that process?
Not at all. I mean, at the beginning, there was a lot of shame. I was ashamed of them. I was always kind of protecting them. Oh, it's just garden variety memory loss, and they're doing good. But when my dad died, then they couldn't do the dance anymore. And I think people that have been partnered for 50 or 60 years protect each other. It's just a natural instinctive thing to do.
Yeah.
But it embarrassed me initially when she'd say things in front of other people that were just so outlandish and not true. And then I was just like, no, I'm not going to be embarrassed with this. And I could very well end up going down that road. People are like, are you worried about getting Alzheimer's? And I'm like, no, but you should be, because you're going to be the one dealing with my sorry, fucked up ass. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm saving money so that I can be in the nicest place on the planet, preferably one of those dementia villages in Amsterdam, where, I can walk around and do my shopping and not know who I am or where I am, but still kind of have this autonomous life. But yeah, it's one of my favorite lines is like, no, I'm not worried about it. You need to be worried about it.
I love that attitude, actually. I just want to mention one thing, your novel.
Oh, The Biddlemores. It only took me 15 years to write it. I have no idea how to write novels, and I still don't, but my mom said you don't have to be a great writer to tell a great story. And I always had this story in my head. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's coming of age. There's talking cows. That's very important. The cat talks. it's whimsical and fun. It's all about being in a Canadian somewhere. It doesn't even, there's not even real towns, but it's somewhere on the prairies on a farm. And it's horrible people that have, a kid that just knows something's not right. Anyway, it was a joy to do. And I was glad to be finished the book, but I was really terrified too. So yeah, it comes out November the 7th. And I think it'll be out in the UK in 2024, I think, somewhere in the fall next year. It's always delayed. They always wait to see how these things do so that they can sell to international markets and yada, yada, yada. But I'm sure if you're all to go on to Amazon, I bet you could find it and have it shipped to your house for 89 UK dollars.
Pounds.
No, but anyway, thank you. I love you, Kevin.
Thanks, Jann. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
I'm so glad. Yay, go, go, go. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see you somewhere. Thanks, Jann. Love you. And I will speak to you soon.
Yes.